Hello, how's it going, everybody? Sorry about the camera again. I'm having some camera trouble, so we're going to use this one. Um, there we go. So today we are going to be jumping into Psalms chapter 18. Let me just double check, make sure this audio is working fine here. Give me 1 second. Where are we? Where is it? All right, here. Let me just check. Let me just check real quick. All right, we're good. So today we're going to be jumping into Psalms chapter 18. Let me pull that up here for you. Doo-dum-dum. Okay, perfect. Oh, I got to change it up here as well. So we're going to do Psalms 18, and we're going all the way to 21. All right, perfect. So, whoa, whoops. Okay, so let's get our Bibles open. So far, what we found out is that, where's the camera? That Psalms is not just the writings of David, right? It's a collection of different Psalms written by multiple different people, David being the most prominent one. And what we've seen is that a lot of these Psalms it's like a prayer journal for David. He's writing down his prayers, he's writing down his thoughts, he's speaking to God through these Psalms. So that's really cool to see. We're getting this insight into David that we haven't gotten before. So today we're going to be jumping into Psalms chapter 18, and this is another one of David's Psalms. And before each of the Psalms, we get a superscript giving us who wrote it, who they wrote it for, and a few other details. This is actually the longest superscript we've seen. Let me hit play here so you guys can see it as well. But let's get started with Psalm 18.
Psalm 18, to the chief musician. A psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who spoke to the Lord the words of this song on the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul.
That's interesting, because usually all these other Psalms, they would say, if it was written by David, it would just say a Psalm of David. But this gave like a whole little mini biography on him. A Psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who spoke to the Lord the words of this song on the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. Well, I like that we get a time frame of around when in David's life this was written. That's cool.
And he said,
I will love you, O Lord, my strength.
So right now, this is coming from a place of thankfulness, right? Because God just delivered him from his enemies and from the hand of Saul. So David is being grateful right now. So it starts off with saying, I love you, Lord. I love you, O Lord. So, I mean, that makes sense because that's his mindset right now.
The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. My God, my strength, in whom I will trust. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The pangs of death surrounded me, and the floods of ungodliness made me afraid. The sorrows of Sheol surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. In my
I feel like this is Psalms is the most we've seen seen Sheol, seen any what is the word, man? Seen any reference seen any reference to Sheol. I mean, we've heard it. We've heard people talk about Sheol before, but in Psalms, I feel like we're getting it. We're getting a whole lot more.
Stress. I called upon the Lord and cried out to my God. He heard my voice from his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the hills also quaked and were shaken, because he was angry. Smoke went up from his nostrils, and devouring fire from his mouth. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also, and came down with darkness under his feet.
So we're continuing on with that illustrative language, that figurative speech, like Job, right? We had a lot of that with Job. I mean, clearly, obviously, right? There's no smoke coming out of God's nostrils, and it's not devouring the coals or anything like that. But it's just showcasing, how angry God was.
He was angry. Smoke went up from his nostrils, and devouring fire from his mouth. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also, and came down with darkness under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub and flew. He flew upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his secret place. His canopy around him was dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. From the brightness before him, his thick clouds passed with hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. He sent out his arrows and
Wait, what? He heard my voice from his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the hills also quaked and were shaken, because he was angry. From the brightness before him, his thick clouds passed with the hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord thundered from the heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice. Okay. Well, the Most High is uttering his own voice, obviously. Okay. I don't know why the sentence mixed me up. I was thinking like the Most High and his were two different people, but yeah, okay. Let me skip back to where we were.
From heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. He sent out his arrows and scattered the foe, lightnings in abundance, and he vanquished them. Then the channels of the sea were seen. The foundations of the world were uncovered at your rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. He sent from above. He took me. He drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my support. He also brought me out into a broad place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. The Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands, he has recompensed me. For I have kept the ways of the Lord, and have not wickedly departed from my God. For all his judgments were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me. I was also blameless before him, and I kept myself from my iniquity. Therefore the Lord has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands in his sight. With the merciful, you will show yourself merciful. With a blameless man, you will show yourself blameless. With the pure, you will show yourself pure. And with the devious, you will show yourself shrewd. For you will save the humble people, but will bring down haughty looks. For you will light my lamp. The Lord, my God, will enlighten my darkness. For by you I can run against a troop. By my God I can leap over a wall. As for God, his way is perfect.
I was going to say back up here, For all his judgments were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me. I was also blameless before him, and I kept myself from iniquity. Like this is right, because we know the time frame this was written, right? It was after David was delivered from Saul and his enemies. But later on in David's life, we couldn't really say he was blameless.
God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven. He is a shield to all who trust in him. For who is God except the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of deer and sets me on my high places. He teaches my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation. Your right hand has held me up. Your gentleness has made me great. You enlarged my path under me, so my...
So David agrees with me, right? God's gentleness. A lot of people think that, I keep saying this, that the God of the Old Testament is ruthless, but from what we've read, he doesn't seem to be ruthless. He's really forgiving. And then David here is speaking about how God is gentle and caring. We've seen how caring he is. So it's very different from what you hear from the outside. You hear like people would say like the God of the Old Testament is this ruthless, tyrannical God, when the God of the New Testament is forgiving and loving. But if you read it, you see that it's the same God throughout, and that's the only way it would make sense, right? Because God is the rock; He's constant, like David had said earlier. God is constant and unchanging. If he changed, okay, fine. Then the idea of him being ruthless and tyrannical in the Old Testament and forgiving and loving in the New Testament, okay, fine, that works. But what we find is he is unchanging. And that's exactly what the Bible continues to say here. It stays consistent in that regard.
Has made me great. You enlarged my path under me, so my feet did not slip. I have pursued my enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn back again till they were destroyed. I have wounded them so that they could not rise. They have fallen under my feet. For you have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued under me those who rose up against me. You have also given me the necks of my enemies so that I destroyed those who hated me. They cried out, but there was none to save, even to the Lord, but he did not answer them. Then I beat them as fine as the dust before the...
They cried out, but there was none to save, even to the Lord, but he did not answer it. So they cried out to God. So God had already judged them at this point and said, okay, fine, they're not worth saving. This is actually kind of crazy. Psalms 18:41. What does my Bible got to say about this? So David's enemies were crying out to God, but God didn't answer them because he was with David. God gives David strength to complete the battle against his enemies. God himself, a warrior, and he outfits his servants for battle. Apparently, in the extremes of battle, the enemies of David found no help from their gods, so they screamed aloud to David's God for deliverance, but God would not answer them. There is only one prayer from the wicked to which he gladly listens: the prayer of repentance. So, according to my commentary is trying to make sense of what is in the text, and it's saying that in the heat of the battle, their gods weren't saving them. So out of desperation, they called out to David's God, the God, for help. But God didn't answer them because they didn't repent. They haven't repented for their ways, for their sins that they have committed, for praying to idols and following pagan practices. They just wanted to be helped. They just wanted to be redeemed from their situation. So my Bible is saying that God saw through that and didn't help them. I mean, my Bible's reading into, it's like, I feel like that's making assumptions, but I mean, I can see why that would make sense, but yeah, what do you guys think about that? They cried out, but there was none to save. Even to the Lord, he did not answer them. Yeah, so my Bible is pretty much trying to give a reason for why God did what he did, but we don't have one really in the text, so.
But he did not answer them. Then I beat them as fine as the dust before the wind. I cast them out like dirt in the streets. You have delivered me from the strivings of the people. You have made me the head of the nations. A people I have not known shall serve me. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. The foreigners submit to me. The foreigners fade away and come frightened from their hideouts. The Lord lives. Blessed be my rock. Let the God of my salvation be exalted. It is God who avenges me and subdues the peoples under me. He delivers me from my enemies. You also lift me up above those who rise against me. You have delivered me from the violent man. Therefore, I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the Gentiles, and sing praises to your name. Great deliverance he gives to his king, and shows mercy to his anointed, to David and his descendants forevermore.
Okay. All right, so this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday. Regarding the anointed, right? Or was it yesterday? Or was it day before? I think it was yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. The anointed. Well, essentially, it referenced the anointed. And the text, if you took off, and it was a capital A, if you took off the capital A, it could have worked as it could have worked as speaking about God's chosen, like David and his descendants, right? There were some lines. There were some like the phrasing used reminded me of John 3:16. Let me see if I can find it. Where was it? Safety of the faithful. No. Psalm. Maybe here. Yeah. Today. Was this it? Anointed. Today I've begotten you, ask of me. No, that's I don't think that was it. Let's see. Let me go back give me 1 second. I'm trying to find where this was. I mean, I can right here. Was it here? Let me look it up. Psalms, anointed. Let's see if that pulls up anything. The reign of the Lord's anointed. Let's change it to New King James Version. Oh yeah, it is this. Okay, here we go. So it was not yesterday. It was when we first started Psalms. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves. So the kings of the earth, what could that mean? The kings on earth, or could it also mean worldly people, worldly kings, right? The kings of the earth, the people that rule this earth, set themselves. They put themselves into power, right? All these other kings, right? On all these neighboring nations and lands, they put themselves into power, positions of power. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. So if that wasn't a capital A, you could read that as God's anointed kings. Like David was anointed to be king. Saul was anointed to be king. The lines of David, his descendants, are all anointed to be kings, right? So those were God's chosen kings. And those other rulers were against the Lord and his anointed, his people, saying, let us break their bonds into pieces and cast away their cords from us. So that's what I'm saying. You could read this as, is he talking about his anointed as the Messiah? Or is he talking about David's descendants, right? We looked into this when we were reading this, that people have two different viewpoints. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord, looking at those other kings, the Lord shall hold them in derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. See, so this is where you could be like, okay, is he talking about the Messiah here? The holy hill of Zion? Isn't Zion heaven? Oh, Jerusalem. Zion is a place name in the Hebrew Bible synonymous for Jerusalem. And that is where they reigned. That is where David reigned out from, Jerusalem. So it seems like we're leaning towards it being talking about the line of David, not really the Messiah. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. So this is where I'm like, okay, this reminds me of John 3:16. You see the rhyming there? You are my only begotten son. You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me and I will give you the nations. So maybe, could this be talking about the Messiah? See, they're using capital M, capital S, capital K, capital A. So I'd like to see the translation. Like, how does this version know that we're talking about the Messiah? Was there any indication that we were talking about the Messiah in the original text? Today I've begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance. Why would Jesus, the Messiah, ask God for the nations for his inheritance? He was born. The whole point was that he was born with nothing, not having an inheritance, right? He was the lamb, born in a manger. It makes sense if you're talking about the descendants of David. They would ask God for something like that, asking God the nations for an inheritance, because they're wanting to expand and have their kingdom prosper. And the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with an iron rod. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. Sounds like something a king would do, right? A conquering king like David. Now therefore be wise, O kings, be instructed, you judges of the earth. So all you other kings and judges, all you neighboring lands, serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son lest he be angry. And you perish in the way, right? Because why would I guess, right? Because Jesus came and delivered the people from Rome. So God is saying, all you kings out there, be careful because my son is coming. And if he's angry, you'll perish in the way. But Jesus never did anything like that. David did, though. There were people died. People died. David was a conquestor. When his wrath is kindled but a little, blessed are those who put their trust in him. See, but this is again, blessed are those who put their trust in him. This is the next sentence, right? So is this him talking about his, or is it talking about God? Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry. He is talking about the Son. And you shall, and the word, the phrasing here, kiss the Son. Why kiss the Son? Like the Son, why? Right? So that's leading me to believe that they're talking about the Messiah, right? So it's like going back and forth. Things are making me think that it's a Messiah. Things are making me think that it's the line of David. So it's hard to decide, which is what they're actually talking about. And if we go to our today's reading, it's saying, where was it? And great deliverance he gives to his king, and shows mercy to his anointed. The usage of the word anointed again. And who is the anointed in this case? To David and his descendants forevermore. So David is using the word anointed to talk about himself and his descendants. So we're seeing how David, this in clear context, the word anointed is being used in this way. So was it used in this way in chapter 2, in Psalm 2? What do you guys think about that?
Psalm 19, to the chief musician, a psalm of David.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork.
Right, we know what the firmament is. We looked into that
speech.
A lot, right? Hebrew cosmology, and back when we did Genesis.
Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoices like a strong man to run its race. Its rising is from one end of heaven, and its circuit to the other end, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned, and in keeping them there is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse me from secret faults. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless, and I shall be innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer.
Psalm 20, to the chief musician, a psalm of David.
May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob defend you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and strengthen you out of Zion. May he remember all your offerings and accept your burnt sacrifice. May he grant you according to your heart's desire and fulfill all your purpose. We will rejoice in your salvation, and in the name of our God we will set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions.
That's cool. I want to know, like, what did their banners look like? What did their sigils and all that stuff look like? Did they have like a representation of? I mean, obviously they probably didn't have a representation of God. That's an idol. But like some sort of symbol. Like what is the ancient Hebrew? Was it just the Star of David? Like when did the Star of David come about? Wikipedia has all the answers, right? History of the Jewish usage. For example, in Israel, there's a stone bearing a hexagram from the arch of the 3rd, 4th century Kirbet Shura synagogue in the Galilee. Originally, the hexagram, oldest complete copy of the Masoretic text. Third, 4th century. So, yeah, so we don't know. Do we know if it was used back in the time of David? Yeah, that's the earliest we've seen. Third, 4th century.
Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with the saving strength of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and stand upright. Save, Lord. May the King answer us when we call.
Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and stand upright. Save, Lord. May the King answer us when we call. That's cool that David is referring to God as the King, right? Because he is the King, but he's referring to God as the King. So he's being humble.
Psalm 21, to the chief musician, a psalm of David.
The King shall have joy in your strength, O Lord, and in your salvation how greatly shall he rejoice. You have given him his heart's desire, and have not withheld the request of his lips. For you meet him with the blessings of goodness. You set a crown of pure gold upon his head. He asked life from you, and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. His glory is great in your salvation. Honor and majesty you have placed upon him. For you have made him most blessed forever. You have made him exceedingly glad with your presence, for the King trusts in the Lord.
But what does this mean? Right, he gave him the crown. He asked life from you, and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. Forever and ever. Did David ask for immortality? 21. Let's see what my Bible's got to say. 21:4. Blessings of goodness. King David acknowledges that all he has is God's gift. His kingship itself, the crown, is God's gift from the Lord. But God's greatest gift is life, temporal and eternal. In response to God for his many gifts, King David trusts in the Lord, for he knows that this trust is not misplaced. These words of this passage should not be limited to King David, for they also speak generally of God's blessings on all believers. Each of us shares in the blessings of true royalty when we place our trust in the Lord, the great King. So my Bible is saying that he's just talking about life in general. But he asked life from you and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. I mean, I guess you can't take it literally, right? Because nobody became immortal as far as I know.
And through the mercy of the Most High, he shall not be moved. Your hand will find all your enemies. Your right hand will find those who hate you.
I guess it was to just push the point forward that if you ask God for something, God will answer.
You shall make them as a fiery oven in the time of your anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Their offspring you shall destroy from the earth, and their descendants from among the sons of men. For they intended evil against you.
So this is going. Your hand will find all your enemies, and your right hand will find all those who hate you. So going back to the whole idea with Genesis 6, I know we keep going back to that. Right? People believe that offspring were the sons of God and the daughters of men, right? If they somehow survived, that's even true, right? That it was angels and men came together and they survived, right? And then that's why the flood occurred, and that's why God wiped out so many different. Back when Moses and Joshua were running around, right? During the Exodus, right? That's why God had wiped out, asked the children of Israel to wipe out, commit genocide, essentially, right? Kill all the women, children, everything, right? Because those were descendants of those offspring, right? That's what the theory is. And this is like, okay, God would do something like that, So, I mean, I'm not saying that that theory is true, but I'm saying that according to this passage here in Psalms, that's something God would do. So it begs the question: Did David and the people in that time believe that theory or no? Their offspring you shall destroy from the earth, and their descendants from among the sons of men. So God will go to the extent of killing off women, children, and everything, right? Because the way the Bible lays it out to be it's not the reason why God killed the women, children, and everything. It's not because of their bloodline and that they were descendants of fallen angels and stuff. It was because that they were pagans, and God didn't want that paganistic mentality to spread to Israel and and corrupt their ways of life. It eventually did, but that's why God wanted all of them to be wiped out. And those, right, pagans, it's in the commandment, thou shalt not take any, have any other God before me, right? Those were God's enemies. They're worshiping other gods, right? They're other gods, so they're God's enemies. And so that's why he probably had them destroyed. Their offspring you shall destroy from the face of the earth, and their descendants from among the sons of men. So everybody, gone.
Devised a plot which they are not able to perform. Therefore, you will make them turn their back. You will make ready your arrows on your string toward their faces. Be exalted, O Lord, in your own strength. We will sing and praise your power.
With an arrow to the face. Whew. Well, that's it. We're not going to jump into 22 today. We just finished Psalms chapter 21. We did 18 to 21 today. Tomorrow we'll jump into chapter 22. What is that going to be about? The suffering, praise and posterity of the Messiah. So it looks like we're going to be talking about more of the Messiah. Maybe we'll see. We'll see if it can be interpreted in multiple ways, like this Psalms 2 was. We'll see when we jump into Psalms 22. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. Tomorrow we'll jump into that, and we'll see. We'll see we'll see if you guys actually think it's talking about the Messiah. We could look at other translations and see what they think. Let me know what you guys thought about today's reading. Tomorrow we'll jump into that in chapter 22 and continue on from there. Chapter 22 Psalm 22 seems to be a decently long one. It's not like one of the short ones. We've been getting a lot of little short ones, like Psalms 20 and stuff, 19. But 22 seems to be a little bit longish. Not really longish, but, And then we're going to jump into Psalms 23, probably one of the most iconic verses or iconic chapters in all of the Bible. So we'll look forward to that, and I'll see you guys then, all right? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.